Wow, here we are again, folks. Brother Peter, tidbits from the Word. I want to talk a little bit about what the Bible says about selfishness. Not what Brother Peter says, but what the Bible says. I personally have been saved since 1972, November 5th, 2 o'clock in the morning. I personally have had God touch my heart to be a giver. To give of everything, give of anything I get. You give me 10 of something, and one of it already belongs to God. You say, Brother Peter, if you got 10 brand new cars sitting in your yard, would you give one of them away? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'll probably give 9 of them away because I'd only need one. And so I had 10 brand new cars in my yard. I'd give 9 of them to 9 people that needed a car. I'd find out who they were, how bad they needed it, and give them one. No strings attached. As a matter of fact, as we grew up in the 70s when I got saved, 1972, every car that we retired or that we bought another car, we gave that car to somebody who had more of a need than we did. Was it much to look at? Absolutely not. I had some of the most ragged things you've ever seen in your life. But back in the 70s, it wasn't like today. You didn't have to have a master electrician or somebody to lift the hood and do anything. You could lift the hood. Anybody could put a set of points in or adjust a set of points. Anybody could put a coil on one. I mean, they were simple. Cars were simple in the older days. And anybody could fix one. It didn't take you could break down on the side of the interstate and get out and pretty much get yourself going. So with just what you had right there, if you got a screwdriver and a monkey wrench, and now we're in a day though where you can't do that. But the old cars that I gave away, they weren't much to look at. And I've had a couple cars given to me since I've been saved. We had one given to us. Matter of fact, we've had 2 given to us. And some people would say, I throw my tin cans in the garbage. But some people like us, instead of throwing them in the garbage, we gave them to somebody. They were like a tin can with a motor. And so here we are going to talk about selfishness. People. We are people. And people are selfish. We're selfish in many, many ways. We're selfish in just about everything if we're not careful. He that giveth unto the poor shall not lack. But he that hideth his eyes shall have many a curse. Proverbs 28:27. I am finding it difficult in my heart and in my life to have great sympathy for some folks that I know will not, absolutely, positively, will not tithe. They will not give God 10%. They will not tithe. They will not do what the commandment is to do. Do you say that everybody that gets cancer is somebody that will not? No. I don't know why everybody, those that get cancer, get it. But I do know this. I have seen some sure enough misery come on some people that would not tithe. And I've seen the misery. Even today. I see it even today. Even today. Wow. The departure from Christ. This know also, that in the last days peerless times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own self, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, and unholy. 2 Timothy 3:1 and 2. We are in that day. The biggest thing is disrespect to God disrespect to God's word that very, very plainly says 1/10 of everything you make belongs to God. God said, blessed is the man that gives, not only in the church his 10%, but gives to the poor. How much do you have to give to the poor? I said this a week or so ago. I said this. And do you do this? Do you? I do this. I haven't this week yet, but I'm going to. Pack a little bag of groceries. And I went over yesterday with a jar of pickles and gave them to a new neighbor. My wife's been making pickles. And every time she makes 10 jars of pickles, there's a jar of pickles got to go. They got to go to somebody. You got to take them and give them away. That's 10%. You say, Brother Peter, you mean you think 10% of everything? Yeah, 10% of everything. 10% of everything. I bet you if you pulled your draw sock out this morning, you'd find that you've got some stockings in there that still got the tag on them. They've never been worn. You take a pair of them out and find somebody. You're in a church, you're in a building where you've got some people, some poor folks. All right? And you need to do that. Check it out and see what you need to give. And give something out of it. And find out what you need to do. How do we show what God said to do? But who hath this world's goods, and seeth his brother have a need, and shutteth up his bowels of compassion from him, how dwelleth the love of God in him? 1 John 3:17. So how are you going to know whether a man's a real Christian or not? How are you going to know if a man really follows God or not? He's going to follow the first principles of spiritual life. And that is to be a giver. A giver. I have never seen the likes of a day where people won't give. They won't help anybody. Say, hey, I don't want to put that neighbor. He's dirty. He stinks. I know he needs to get to the doctor, but I don't want him in my car. Well, shame on you. Shame on you. You need to do things. You need to give. And you need to do it. Be an example of the early church. And all that believed were gathered and had all things in common, sold their possessions and goods, and parted them to all men as every man had a need. Wow. The first thing that they did when they got saved was put selfishness away. Put selfishness away. I see a picture here of every human being on the earth owing God 10%, whether he's saved or not. And God, these first Christians, God collected his 10%. They were in a poor place, and they had a little more than the next guy, and they sold it and they shared it with others. Know ye not that to whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his servant ye are, to whom ye obey, whether it of sin, listen to this one, unto death, or of obedience unto righteousness. Romans 6:16. Now a lot of people will preach that verse as spiritual only. I got news for you. I see physical death. I see physical death. I see it happening. Why do you see it happening, Brother Peter? I see it happening to people who won't tithe. I see it happening to people who won't give. I see it happening to people who are leaving a bank account. A huge one. Don't want to take $1 out of it. Man, I'm a philanthropist. What is a philanthropist? Philanthropist is give. A man who gives. I give. God's made it to where what I have, I don't mind giving. Hey, do you know what's a good feeling? To only have $5 in your pocket and be out there and see somebody who needs it and take it out and give it to them. And the rest of the day you say, well, I'm going to run to the Dollar Tree and get something. And then I remember, I gave my $5 away. So then that giving becomes sacrificial. And when your giving becomes sacrificial, then you're giving. If your giving is not sacrificial, I doubt you're really giving. So you can give sacrificially. Attitude. Listen to this. And his armor bearer said unto him, do all that is in thine heart. Turn thee, behold, I am with thee according to thy heart. 1 Samuel 14:7. The relationship to a master. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters, according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, and singleness of your heart, unto Christ, not with eye service, as man pleases, but as the servant of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will, doing service as to the Lord and not to men. Ephesians 6:5-7. You are going to do it as to the Lord. Not a man pleaser, even though it pleases men. But do it as to the Lord. Hey, most men that know that you gave your only $5 bill away will say, man, that guy's foolish. He's stupid. He gave away what he needed. And now he's got to go all day without it. They ought to try it sometime. The trouble is that a real rich man won't give away so much that he'd have to go without. The only thing he'll have to go without is that he knows that he's $5 shorter than he was in his bank account, and it irks him. And I've actually heard of people say, just a little more, and I'm gonna be a little bit richer than that guy right there. That's where I'm headed. You watch, I'm gonna pass him, and you're gonna die with nothing. You're gonna not take nothing with you. My thought of the matter is that every single dollar you die and leave behind is going to be piled against you, not for you. Wow. Behavior. Exhort servants to be obedient unto their own masters, and please them well in all things, not answering again, not prolonging, but showing all good fidelity, that they may adorn the doctrine of God, our Savior, in all things. Titus 2:9-10. People will adorn the Bible and the doctrine of God in Christianity if you act like a real Christian. This is the deal. You've got to act like a real Christian if you are a real Christian, and if you're not, you need to learn how to be one. And you need to start, first of all, with your own tithing. Warning, listen to this warning. Neither yield your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, but yield yourselves unto God as those that are alive from the dead, and your members is instruments of righteousness unto God. Romans 6:13. But God be thanked that ye were the servants of sin, but ye have obeyed from the heart, that of the doctrine which was delivered unto you. Romans 6:17. One of the first principles of the doctrine was delivered unto every Christian that comes into a church is that 10% of everything he makes belongs to God. You say, Brother Peter, you've been talking now, the last 3 excerpts that you've done, you've talked about giving. Giving is the starting place of getting. Giving is the starting place of getting. When you get the audience of God, when you get the fact that God is looking at it, and you realize God's looking at what you're doing, and the more you give, the more God looks, and the more He rewards you and gives you when you give. And you know something? I believe I could be headed to the grocery store, and give my grocery money away and come home, and within an hour, somebody will knock on my door and say, "Hey, Pete, we were cleaning out our food closet and we got a couple boxes of food out here that we'd like to give away. You know somebody can use it?" I'd say, "Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll bring it in my house and we'll use it." and that's how it would be. And God's going to take care of those that take care of His business. If you take care of His business, do you know the plowing of the wicked? The plowing of the wicked is an abomination to God. It said, "A high look, a proud heart, and the plowing of the wicked is sin." Proverbs 21:4. To plow God's earth, to raise a row of collard greens and count them up, and there's 30 of them, and you don't give 3 of them away, you're breaking the principles of God. And if you break the principles of God, He's not happy. So therefore, your plowing has become deceitful because 10% belong to Him. So whatever we have, we need to be careful. Thoughts of foolishness. The thought of foolishness is sin, and the scorner is an abomination to men. It's foolish to believe that you don't have to give 10% and everything will be just fine in your life. That's foolishness, because it won't. If you don't follow the giving principles, you shut the door and you locked it up. You say, "But I do this and I do that and I do this." Hey, do you know that we're supposed to give 10% of our time? How much time is that, Brother Peter? Well, in 1 week there's 168 hours. That means you owe 16.8 hours directly to God. You say, "Do you do that, Brother Peter?" I try to do it on this YouTube. I try to do it in personal soul winning, personal work outside, doing something for a person. You can go take your weed eater, throw it in the back of the truck, and go down the road and see a house that really needs weed eating, and jump out there and weed eat it. And weed eat up the sidewalk, clean up the place for somebody. If it's like it is, it's usually like it is. There's a little old lady lives in there. She can't do anything and doesn't have any money. It is your duty as a Christian to act like one. It's your duty as a Christian to act like one. It starts with giving. It starts with your 16.8 hours a week. You say, "Brother Peter, that's a long time. That's 2 days of work. 2 days of the man's normal work today is 8 hours. I'm 74 and I still work. I work from daylight to dark. And I'll put the shame on the 20-year-olds today. I put the shame on the 30-year-olds today. I put the shame on the 40-year-olds today. Listen, God's gave me health. Why? Because I asked for it. I asked for it. I asked God to give it to me. And He's gave it to me. Do I have to work for it? I think I have to work for the muscle. I don't have any muscle. I got a muscle right here. I can say to 20-year-old, "Let me feel your muscle." It's a little piece of flab. They might as well be a baby. They don't do anything. Punching your telephone all day long, looking at stupid, foolish stuff, and talking nonsense is not profitable, not godly, and it's not healthy. And so, we want to get healthy, let's do it. Transgression, failure. Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Whew. Man, James 4:17. I got news for you. We all sit in churches where there are groups of people who do not do anything. Nothing. And then we sit in churches who do something. I happen to be in a church right now where I believe that the slackers are in the minority. I think the slackers are in the minority. I think those that shirk work are in the minority. I believe that when we're fixing to come up on a thing we do every year where it requires 400 people to give 15 weekends, one right behind the other, 15 days, 15 days of their life, anywhere from 8 to 12 to 15 hours during those days, directly to a work in the church. 400 people are going to do this. Sacrifice 15 days out of the month of October just for God and set it apart and do God's work during that period of time. Very, very few churches I find where 400 people would do that. You say, how many people in your church, Brother Peter? 500. And 400 of them are willing to work 15 days out of a month and give that directly to the Lord. And going to do it. And not easy. And not easy. I'm not talking about easy either. I'm talking about downright hard. Hard thing. Soul winning work, but yet hard. At Faith Baptist Church in LaGrange, Georgia, where buses come from all over the place and people come to a thing called Judgment Journey. It is a pictorial on about 14 acres of land. It is a pictorial of the end time. It is a soul winning thing. It has won, and the preacher said just yesterday, looking at it, in 20 years, that we have about 90,000 people in 20 years have said, Jesus, I am a sinner. Forgive me of my sin, come in my heart, and save my soul. We do have those that even yourself may be listening to this and say, I wonder how many of those that said that meant it. I can tell you what, everyone that did say it and meant it is going to heaven. And if only one out of 90,000 said it and meant it, it was worth doing it. For one soul to be spared an eternity in hell, it was worth it. Jesus died on the cross and shed his blood for one soul. If one believed him, he would have done it for that one. He would have died on the cross for you, or just for me. He would have died for just one. One soul he would have died for. And that's what he did die for. But all others can follow suit and can be saved. But Jesus died for us. Warning against sin. Neither yield ye your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, but yield yourself unto God as those that are alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto God. That's your body. This is your body. A work day in the church comes up. Do you say, I ought to go, but I don't feel like it? So you don't go. So you put double burden on those that are there. Well, if you say, well, I'm in a church where if I go, there's always too many there. There's never too many. There's never too many. If you walk across the parking lot of your church and you pick up one piece of paper, one styrofoam cup, one soda bottle, or even one soda bottle cap, you've done a job. Somebody just took a candy wrapper off a piece of gum paper and threw it in a parking lot, and you picked it up. You've done something. That is something you've done. You picked it up. This is God's property. You're on church property. It's God's property. And if you're on God's property, you shouldn't be littering. You shouldn't be littering anyway. We live in a class today that eats something, opens a window and throws it on the side of the road and said, oh, the prisoners will get it. I would love to take that tag number down and say, it's a $500 fine. You just threw that cup out, or that soda bottle. It's $500. Pay it. Throw another one out. Let me catch you. Second fine for me would be $1,000. I think it's one of the biggest sins in the world to live in a country where people do not have enough respect for their own town, their own country, their own street, their own sidewalk, even their own driveway, to not just throw the trash out there, or especially in the church. Isn't it amazing that after a church service, 2 or 3 people have to walk through all the pews and literally pick a bag of trash up? Literally. I'd like to see someday, one week, the trash picked up, put in a bag, and take it up there and dump it on the podium around where the preacher's walking, and let him preach that Sunday with it all around there and say, by the way, all this trash up here is what you left in church last Sunday. Gum papers, gum, potato chip bags, soda cans, bottles, cups, just everything under the sun. My daddy would have died and rolled over in his grave if somebody walked into church in his day with something to eat or something to drink. And today it's common practice. Listen, we've lost our respect for the house of God. We've lost our respect for the town we live in. We've lost our respect for the street we live on. We've lost our respect, period, in the matter of throwing things out the window. It's not something you should do. I think you ought to be tied to a stake and whipped if you throw something out of the car. And so unrighteousness, all unrighteousness is sin. And there is a sin not unto death. I love this. In 1 John 5:17, he said there is a sin that is not unto death. What is he saying? He's saying there is a sin unto death. I personally believe that the sin unto death, the first sin unto death, is after you're saved, is not tithing. I personally believe a stingy man is going to pay his money to the doctor. I personally believe a stingy man is going to run around with a lot of different things happening to him that wouldn't happen to him were he not stingy. Do you say a man that is a giver doesn't have anything happen? No, givers can have things happen to them too. But non-givers are going to have bad things happen. And God's going to see to that. And we started out with the plowing of the wicked. What is not of faith? He that doubteth is damned if he eat, because he eateth not of faith. For whosoever is not of faith is sin. Romans 14:23. Do you know something? I watch Christian people, quote, quote, lightly use the word Christian. People who profess to be Christians go in a restaurant, sit down, and start eating, and never say a blessing. I think if I saw one of them choking, I wouldn't even give them the Heimlich maneuver. I'd say, you're getting what you deserve. You can sit down here and just start shoveling, throwing it down here, your mouth's so full you can't talk, and didn't even thank God. Well, I'm in a public place. Am I supposed to bow my head and thank God? Yes, you are. If you eat one bite of food, and you hadn't said a blessing, you deserve to choke on it. If you hadn't asked God, thank you for this bite of food, you need to choke to death on it. Hey, I'm telling you, we're living in a world today that's left God out. You better thank the Lord for what He's given you. One more. Against thee and thee only have I sinned, and done this evil in thy sight, that thou mayest be justified when thou speakest, and be clear when thou judgest. Psalm 51:4. Thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God. Acts 5:4. Let me tell you something. If you lie unto God, you deserve the punishment. If you think that you're telling God, I'm doing all I can do, God, or all I can do, and you're not tithing, you're a liar. If you're not doing all that you can do, then you're a liar. If all you're doing, the only spiritual life you've got is going to the church, and you come in late, and run out, and don't meet anybody, do anything, don't have anything to do with the church, then you might as well almost not be there. If that's what your salvation is, you need to check it out. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.